The German army has taken our allies' land. Today, we will be the sword that severs their hold. First, we will rout them from Wellington Trench, pushing them across the river to the Munich line, where they will find no purchase. Finally, we will advance upon Hawthorne Station and, once and for all, reclaim this land for our French allies.
I love Battlefield 1. I cannot say how much I've enjoyed this game the past generation. This game is easily my favorite game of the PlayStation 4, Xbox One generation. And when you look at my time played stats, this backs it up. I have over 16 days played on the Xbox version, and that doesn't even include very much single player. I've barely played any of the single player campaign on Xbox. On PlayStation, that's where I started. I played the beta on the PlayStation 4 back in, I think it was late 2016. And my time played stat on the PlayStation is about 8 days. And that's online only. And that doesn't include single player, which all the achievements and the trophies for this game are only on the single player, which is unfortunate. I think they should have more online. Actually, I take that back. The majority of the achievements are on single player. There are a handful of online ones, but very, very few. Especially when you compare it to Battlefield Hardline, which had, I feel, more online achievements. The achievements or trophies on this game online are pretty straightforward, pretty easy. You can get them pretty quickly. On PlayStation, I got the Platinum Trophy, and I got every achievement for every DLC. There were 4 DLCs for this game, and that's part of what I love about this game. This is going to be just an informal rant of me talking about how much I love this game and how much I appreciate this game. First, I'll start out with its importance. So I grew up with video gaming when all the games everywhere were all about World War II. Medal of Honor, Call of Duty, all of these games, and many others, I'm sure, they all focused around World War II, which is great, but after a while you kind of get used to seeing the same locales, the same weapons, seeing the same story more or less told over and over again. To my knowledge, Battlefield 1 is basically the only World War I game. Certainly the only World War I game that has become this popular, this widespread. The only other World War I games I can think of are like one by the History Channel and a couple others that are just kind of not very good, that nobody would really play anyway, no matter what. But part of the importance with any medium, whether it be books or movies or TV or video game, is that it inspires you to think differently. Now, prior to playing Battlefield 1, I didn't really care much about World War I. When you learn about history in high school or college, a lot of the focus is on just kind of a general overview of big events. And I do remember in high school learning maybe a little bit about World War I, more about World War II because that was more recent. But really these things kind of seem far away when you're learning about history. But what I love about a good medium, whether it's a good book or a good movie, good TV show, or a good video game, is that it inspires you to think about history or a subject a little bit differently. And for me, that's what Battlefield 1 was. Battlefield 1 inspired me to think about World War I differently. And that's a big reason why this game's important. Obviously, it's just a video game. At the end of the day, it's just something for entertainment. It's not the most historically accurate, thing. But I think what makes it useful is that it introduces you to certain topics, and it helps you become a little bit more familiar with aspects of this historical event. it introduces you to certain regions, and I'll focus on one in particular, and that's in Gallipoli, or in Turkish, it's like they say Gallipolu. It's this small part of Western Turkey that was a major battle. And this battle, or this campaign, where Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, was a leader, at the end of this campaign, which the Ottoman Empire won against the British, this marked the beginning of the modern Turkish Republic. I'm married to a Turkish woman. I used to live in Turkey for a short time. And after playing this game, this really helped me take a second look about the World War I history. And I'm very fortunate to have been able to go back a number of times to Turkey to see these areas, but this game really helped inspire me to look at that battle differently. There's a DLC. There's 4 DLCs for this game, which is awesome. And each DLC focuses on a different region of World War I. The first DLC, Name of the Tsar, first DLC, They Shall Not Pass, focused on the French campaign. So you have more French levels, based on those historic battles. You have In the Name of the Tsar, which focuses more on the Russian part of it, the Eastern Front. And then you have another DLC that focuses on the Turkish campaigns, in Acibaba, Gallipoli, and it's so inspiring, to play these levels and to be actually in these locales, which the developers spent a lot of time trying to make historically accurate as they could. And the graphics, even to this day, this game came out in late 2016. It's now 2020. This game's been out for almost 4 full years, and the graphics are still top-notch, and that's what makes this game a joy to play. And so when I'm walking around these levels, just these online levels, it's really gorgeous, and it really helps put a better perspective into these World War I battles. When you learn about historical events, especially when it's, over 50 years ago, and especially something like this, 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, any pictures you see are in black and white. The majority of the video footage you see is really, really choppy in black and white, but this puts it into color. And even if it's not an exact replica, it doesn't need to be a replica, these levels. And so, but when you play these levels, it kind of puts these battles into perspective, and so okay, it was, the British against the Ottomans. The Ottomans were defending this piece of land. The British were invading by boat. The British ultimately failed, but it helps you imagine, when you play these levels, just kind of a little bit what it was like, or at least what the strategic and the tactical perspective was, the different weapons that were used, and it certainly, at least for me, helped get me a little bit more interested, and so that way I could, do more research. I became more familiar with the weapons. I thought the weapons were interesting, and of course the tanks and the aircraft, the locales were fascinating, and that's a big part of what I was thinking about when I went back to Turkey. I've been to Turkey like 3 times. And so when I went back this most recent time, when I was at this battlefield, and I wish I was showing maybe another video. I'll show that Gallipoli level that I was mentioning. You just imagine what it was actually like, and so when I was there in person, I could help him. I could kind of see it a little bit better. It didn't seem so distant. It didn't seem so far away. It kind of personalized it a little bit more, this historical event. That's why I love being able to go. That's a huge aspect of why I love this game, is because it made me care a lot more about a historical event, which before I really didn't care much about. And I think a lot of people can relate. World War II is the big focus, and of course it was a big, big event. I've been to Auschwitz. It's just absolutely breathtaking. Of course I've read, the books, Anne Frank or Eli Wiesel, Knight. That's mandatory reading, in high school. But World War I cannot be forgotten either. And what's so fascinating about World War I is you have all these different empires fighting, involved, obviously. And after World War I ended, a lot changed. The Russian Empire fell, the Ottoman Empire fell, the British Empire no longer had its hegemony with power in the world. The United States became a new world power. Especially after World War II, that's definitely the case. But, a great video game, a great movie, a great book, a great TV show helps you look, I think, at historical events differently. It helps you care a little bit more, and that's what Battlefield 1 did for me. Moving on, I've talked for 10 minutes about just the historical thing. I got to talk about what else makes this game just absolutely incredible. One was their new approach to DLC. Before, especially, just Battlefield Hardline, the game that came out prior to this, every DLC splits up the player base a little bit more, and, there are achievements and trophies for these DLCs, but I still remember when the 4th DLC came out on Battlefield Hardline, basically within a week or two, you could not find anybody playing those 4th DLC missions. Nobody was paying for it. I paid for the season pass, the premiere, or whatever they call it, but even though they were great levels, you would never find people playing them. And what's awesome about Battlefield 1 is they came with a different approach. They still had DLC, it's not quite like Call of Duty, the latest Call of Duty, or the latest Battlefield 5, where there's no paid DLC to separate the user base. Instead, they have kind of a rotating, every week, or I think it's like every 12 days, they have a rotating locale. And so I think right now they're actually playing the Turkish levels. Maybe in a week or two they're going to go back to the Russian levels, and they'll go back to the French levels, then they might go back to the base campaign. The only bad thing is it's only on one game type, Operations, which I think is the best game type. It's a lot of fun, but some of those other great game types like War Pigeons or Supply Drop you'll never be able to find. But what's awesome is you'll at least still be able to play those cool levels from the DLC, even if you never played for it. So that helps keep the game more alive. Another great thing, and I think what makes any game good, especially in this modern era with online games, is it has to have developer support. It has to have community support after the game is launched, and this is exactly what they did with Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 today is a completely different game than it was when it first came out. I feel that Battlefield 1 didn't really hit its stride online until about 7 months after it came out. There were a number of issues and a lot of features that it was missing, especially when you compare it to previous Battlefield games. For one, I understand, coming from Battlefield 4 or even Battlefield Hardline, there were just so many unlocks online. There were so many medals, so many ribbons, and so it was really just overwhelming. It was just kind of, you were just overwhelmed by all these different awards you can unlock, and so just each award kind of became meaningless. So what they did with Battlefield 1 is at the end of the game, after all their DLCs, they only have a total of 40 medals that you could earn. Now you could only earn 5 medals at a time. Every week they only select 5 medals that you can choose from. Initially, I think there were only 20 medals that you could actually earn, but initially you could only earn 1 at a time. This was kind of an artificial way to add replay value. It forces you to play longer when you can't, when these medals don't stack. That was really, really frustrating though, because like you would have one medal that would be, get a 10 kill streak, and another medal would be, for example, have 10 squad members or 20 squad members spawn on you. That would force you to play extra games. You could only focus on one thing at a time, and even if you would have completed the old medals, you would only make progress with whatever medal that you had selected in game, and that was very, 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 very frustrating. I'm so happy that they fixed that. So They still have the rotating medals, so that encourages you to go back and play every single week, because, every Sunday evening, maybe they have, medals that I actually need this week, or even if I already earned those medals, I could earn them again and earn those points again and increase my rank, which is awesome. And so I'm really happy that they came out with that. That's one example of an issue that they fixed. They also added some new features, like, for example, ribbons. I cannot believe that they never had ribbons on launch. I guess they just needed some more time. That adds a little bit more to work towards as well. I mean, you get, I think, a 500-point bonus with every ribbon you earn. It also encourages you to play the game a little bit differently. I played some airplane modes that I never would have played otherwise. I played those modes just so I can unlock those ribbons that are specific to those game type. Same with the MVP ribbon. I think that's really cool that they added that. You get a little something, you can go back and see how many games you were the most valuable player. They also added, they have these battle packs that you unlock just normally. Operations battle packs, which take a little bit longer to earn because you can only play it on one game mode and you have to earn many points on that game mode. But what's cool is that Operations battle pack gives you a few more extra things. And what's interesting too is you could totally tell that they approached this game with Battlefield 4 in mind, because there's so many things that they took the complete opposite approach of Battlefield 4. As I mentioned before, on Battlefield 4 they had so many unlocks, so many weapons, so many attachments. I mean, you could play the game for hundreds of hours, and every time you play you were just continuously unlocking XP boosts and all this stuff. After a while it just kind of gets I want to say, like, monotonous, or it just kind of loses its value. It's not so special anymore, all these XP boosts. On this game, XP boosts are special. They really are. And what's cool is that they're so rare, but the cool thing is it encourages you to find a squad of you and 4 other players for 5 total, because you can share your squad boost with your XP boost with your squad. And that's awesome. Encourages you to play with other people. You want to share the love a little bit. When you get an XP boost, it only lasts for 1 hour, but it's cool because it only counts for in-game time, unlike on the latest Call of Duty, where you are stuck playing the game when you activate it. And then another thing, as you can see at the end of this game that I've played, is that they've also added service assignments later on, which was really cool because it's kind of like an artificial way to make you play the game a little bit differently. Kind of adds an extra challenge, and these extra challenges make the game a little bit harder. For example, there's one not a perk, but just like one thing you add to your character when you're playing, that it takes 1 second of health away from your character. It takes 1% of your health every second that you don't get a kill. So you get a kill, it pauses that decrease for 10 seconds. So it really forces you to be active. You can't camp. You have to keep hunting for people so you can kill people and then replenish your health. And there's all these different challenges like that, and so you get like a cool dog tag that you can show off later, which I think is pretty awesome. And so I'm really, really close to actually getting all of the service assignments. I have most of them done. There's one airplane one which I am not good at airplanes at all. I have to use the attack plane, the not the heavy bomber, but the bomber. I cannot get any kills with the bomber. With the heavy bomber, I'm really good at. That's a lot easier to get a lot of kills with. But yeah, I think that's awesome that they actually encourage that. They came out with extra challenges that change up the game a little bit. They also had, what I thought was so amazing, is these community events. Unfortunately, they don't do the community events anymore, which really sucks. But I'm really happy that I played the ones that I did, so I could get those dog tags. That was something else I could challenge myself and look forward to earning. but they also had these Friday Night Battlefield games where they would advertise, on their forums. They said, hey, me and this other guy, I think they were community relations people, we're going to be in this server for 2 hours. If you want to get the Friday Night Battlefield dog tag, you have to kill us, or you have to melee us with a hatchet or something like that, and then you have to share a screenshot or the video clip of that. And I remember spending so much time trying to not only play with them, so that would be an opportunity, even a possibility to get those dog tags. But I remember when I finally got it, that was something I was so happy to share and to put on my, my dog tags to show off that, I killed a, game developer. That was something really, really cool. Which, a lot of games don't do. As far as I know, they don't do that in Call of Duty at all. They don't encourage you to play with, the developers. I mean, they don't have any server selection, manual server selection thing like they do on Battlefield. And that's part of what I think makes Battlefield awesome, is that even today, there is a Battlefield 1 community manager or developer right now. His name's Jakub. I can link to him on Twitter. He is actually being very, very involved these days with Battlefield 1. He reactivated double XP, which has not occurred enough on Battlefield 1. Very rarely have they ever had double XP, which is a criticism I have for this game, is that the developers have kind of forgot about it for the most part. So I'm glad that this one guy, at least he's encouraging people to play again by having these rotations going on, which is great. And it's encouraging me to rank up like 6 or 7 more ranks, so I can max the rank before the next gen consoles come out. And this is just such an awesome game. Yeah, and so please, if you have any good memories with Battlefield 1, let me know. I've certainly had a lot of great memories on Battlefield 1. I'm really happy that they've supported the game, and especially, I would not have played the game as much as I have if they didn't come up with updates to support the new consoles. And what I mean is the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro. The PlayStation 4 Pro obviously came out first. I think it might have taken them like 3 months or 6 months or something like that for them to release a patch for the PlayStation 4 Pro, and that was my go-to. I played this game a lot, but now I have both consoles. Also the Xbox One X. Now that they've come out with the Xbox One X patch that plays this game in native 4K, this game looks so much more better, so much better than the PlayStation 4 version even. I mean, you can really tell a difference, especially when you zoom in on, your weapon and you can see the reticle, especially if you have the anti-air sights. There actually is a big difference with the aliasing and what have you. And so, I mean, the game is still very graphically very pleasing. Now you can see, in the footage right here, now I'm looking at my service assignments. I'm really close to getting all of them done. Really a lot of fun. I'm done with all the really, really challenging ones where, it sacrifices your health. The one I'm working on towards now is there's a peacock perk that once you're spotted until you die. So I'm on everyone's radar, or I guess not radar, but everyone can see where I am. Yeah, you can see I got all the ribbons. I'm still working on all the medals. Just goes to show just how awesome this game is with all the replay value, even 4 years later after the game came out. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please let me know what you want me to talk about next, and if you enjoyed just listening to me talk. And yeah, I will see you all in the next one. Take care.